few paragraphs here about the reality of theft on a very high spiritual level that comes all the way down to the physical level. So Rabbi Nachman is going to share with us some things that we're probably not going to enjoy, but we're going to be brace up and learn something. If the person, the nigzal, excuse me, has not had children, he hasn't had children yet, לא היה לו בנים, יוכל לגזור ממנו שלא יהיה לו. The thief can cause him not to have any children in the future. Now, we learned earlier in this Torah, for those of you who haven't been there, that when a person steals money from a person, he's stealing from the garment of his wife, because a wife is the garment that brings money to the soul, because the soul is compared to layers of garments. Just like you wear in the winter layer after layer, well, so too, a woman is the soul, a garment of the soul of a man, and she carries a blessing of money. And if a person steals from a man, he's stealing from his wife, essentially, and he can cause her to not make it to 120, and you can even take the children away. But what about a guy who doesn't have a wife, who's just single, or he has a wife but he hasn't had any children? If someone steals from him, he can lose the ability to have women, because the souls are compared to a tree and branches and fruit. And the trunk of the tree are the parents, and the branches of the tree are the channels that connect the parents to the children, who are the fruit. And so theft interrupts the transmission of life force from the father to the mother to the children. And so stealing from somebody is not just stealing money. It's stealing life force, to the point that you can actually cause a person to spend his life without children, God forbid. Even a person has already had children, he can cause damage to even kill such a person's children in other unexplainable or at least unconnected ways. Because if the children still need their mother to grow up, to mature, to develop, like the example of the branches of the tree of the mother, with the fruits have not yet completed their ripening cycle, which is achieving maturity. And just like the fruit needs to continue drawing nourishment from the tree, so do the children need to continue drawing nourishment from the tree. Okay, and when you take the branch from a tree, what does it do to the fruit? It kills the fruit. God forbid, which is the children. Because the children still need to nurse more and get more life force to reach maturity. Iman. And this hitnotzatut or is the phrase that the Rebbe uses to describe the branch. It's the soul shining out like a branch reaches out from a tree, and before the fruit, the children appear on there. And everything goes according to the type of theft that it was. And every single person is different according to the tree, the branch, and the fruit that's connected there. Because there are many differences between all trees. And so to the quality and the quantity of the branches of the tree. And so too, there's different levels of quality of fruit. And they all have many differences and distinctions. Because there are certain trees that have a lot of branches and very few fruit. And so the opposite is true. There are trees that have few branches but a lot of fruit. And so to the quality of the branches, and there's a tree that has only had one branch. It's a very precious branch. And there are trees that have 10 branches. And they're only worth 1 coin each. And therefore there are many types of poor people. And then they have a lot of children. And the father only can get 1 coin, 1 golden coin, which of course we're talking in currency terms of 200 years ago, in order to sustain all his children. Because the branches themselves are weak and short. And they're only worth 1 gold coin. Or he has very weak, small branches. And then there are people who are very wealthy. Because his branch is very precious. Now, people say, come on, Avraham, this doesn't sound very PC. This doesn't sound like very nice. That some families have a lot of money and a lot of children, and a lot of branches, a lot of fruit, and some have very few and very weak and very not producing. And it sounds like in our human perception that there's favoritism going on, that there's something not fair. But we don't ever accuse God of being not fair, because we don't understand his calculations and how the development of these souls has taken place over hundreds of years. So by the time we see a family that has a lot of children and no money, or a family that has a lot of children and a lot of money, or vice versa, or however you mix it, there's no possibility that our mind can conceive of and know the matrix of all the details. Now, there are great tzaddikim that can see into the future about a soul, what it's going to do, and what if it's going to bring greater souls into the world with it. But there are very few people like that, especially nowadays. So we have to rely on faith alone. It's the only way we can get through this conundrum. Okay. So continuing, and so it's also possible that a tree can have a lot of branches, but only very few fruit, very few children. Like the example of the tree. And now we can grasp something. For example, but a tree that has 3 branches. And each branch is very special. That each branch can bring forth 2 good fruits, if you will. So therefore, you can count that such a tree, such a man and woman combination, will bring forth 6 children. We can also say, and we can also say there's a tree that each branch is worth 100 adumim, which is another currency. Therefore, that each branch should be worth 100 adumim, and therefore they're altogether it's 300 the value, because they have 3 children each branch is 3 children, and therefore we have 600. So if a person takes 1 branch, which is worth 100 adumim, who goes there? He's taking one of the branches. So you see, if a person in this type of situation, well, we're not talking about little thefts, my friends. I do not believe that we're talking about, shoplifting or things that children do. We're talking about real theft. That's cutting off life force to one of the children or one of the members of the family. He can take 2 children even. We should know there is a great distinction in this. And whether the fruits are appropriate to bring forth one after the other, like many women, especially in the religious world, have children 1 year after another when they're young. And Shezeh gozel mimenu anaf echad. And then in the case where a person does steal and does take one of the branches of children, no tell mimenu shnei banim, he can't take two children. Afal pichen adayin ra'uim lo litkayem yeter habanim shel ha'anafim asherim. But still, well, he can have merit that the rest of the children and the rest of the branches will be guarded and reach maturity. Okay, lo hazik nisharim, because the remaining branches are not damaged. So you see, it's a very precise thing. This type of equating the idea of theft to these growth of trees and branches and fruit, because we don't see the branches and the trunks and the fruit. Doesn't mean they're not there. We just don't see them because it's deeper than our reality. It's like trying to look at cells without a microscope. Can you see the cells in your blood without a microscope? No. If you have a microscope, you could see it. So if you have a spiritual microscope, you could see the souls that are emanating from a certain being. And because he doesn't, the thief hasn't taken from the other branches, and therefore they're fine. But if all the children were supposed to come out together like triplets or quadruplets or whatever, even shisha b'keres had, like there was in Egypt, sextuplets, I think they're called. Even a person only takes from a mea hadumim, let's say it's mea rubles or $100, whatever, which is the value of one branch that has two fruits. With all this, he still destroys the light of all those different souls. Because they were all supposed to come out as once. So there is a distinction there between how the fruit are brought to fruition and whether over a period of time or all at once. And the theft takes away the light to these souls, and they lose their wholeness. They lose their ability to hold the light. Lo be'elu hamea adumim levad shenatal mimenu, and then for the person can only damage him according to the one branch that he does take from, according to the value of that. Now, shenatal mimenu litol mimenu kol abanim, but a person can also take all a person's children. Now, this is extremely difficult thing to conceive of and rather unpleasant. But we do sometimes see these horrible events, tragedies, where a whole family is taken out in a car accident. They leave the world. How could it be? Are they all evil? No. Are they all lacking in heaven? Not necessarily. It might be well that they're very holy children and parents. And there's another reason for their death, because God does everything for many reasons. And if we enter the realm of questioning, then we're going to suffer, guaranteed. You can say, well, Avraham, I'm just walking around blind, believing in God. Well, it's kind of like that, yeah. Because I got to get this idea down that my brain and his brain is not the same brain. And his calculation and vision and deception and deciphering and perception of reality is so beyond any human concept of perception that we're just fooling ourselves when we enter into judgment on these issues. But Rabbi Nachman is giving us this layout, perhaps that we'll get a better idea and a more appreciative notion about how important it is not to steal. God forbid, because people put so much value on money and so little value on the important things in life, like, your wife and your children. God forbid. And spending the whole life making money for who? If you're never home with your wife and kids and they grow up and then you got $1 million, so what? They're not going to want to come around for you. They're going to want to come around and get paid. So it's a very delicate thing. This whole relationship of money, children, wives, families, and theft. There are many, many differences here. According to the theft, and according to the tree, and according to the branches, according to the fruit. but mahutam kamutam in their amounts and in their qualities. Klal, okay. I think we need a call after all that, right? Because there's too many distinctions to even think of counting. I know about a fellow who tried to count all the bugs in the world so we could know what bugs not to eat. Like the more bugs you know, the more you'll know not to eat. But he couldn't keep counting because it's not just a matter of insects and flies. Because you know how many types of flies there are, and types of mosquitoes there are, and types of beetles there are. It's like it's beyond. I'm sure there are scientists who have done this work, but this particular rabbi wasn't. You know, it would take him 20 years. But the general principles of what we're after here, because that gives us a handle on this reality. Ki hi tzricha tamid lashlim oram. The main idea is that the tree must complete the ripeness, the wholeness. The woman must bring the child to its fullness to reach its healthy completion of growth. And as if the mother doesn't have her wholeness like the tree, she might not be able to give birth at all. So you see, this is a very spiritual question, but gives us a very sensitive take on why some women can't have children. But her essential reason or level of completion of wholeness, comes through money. A woman is made to receive money, and I know a lot of guys that don't like this fact. They just can't. Why does she always want my money? You know, I hear that complaint a few times in 1,000 different ways in 1,000 different languages. Because that's the way God made a woman, to need money so that she can bring you a family and take care of the family. And if you don't like the equation, get out of the fathering business. Because this is the way it is. Now, it doesn't mean she needs a Macy's card and a Saks Fifth Avenue card and a card for every store on Fifth Avenue. Or maybe she does. It depends on how wealthy her branch is and what souls she needs to bring in and how precious they are. Because every soul has a different job. And some souls, their job is to be rich. And another soul's job is to be poor, but be very rich in Torah. And another soul's job is to be very poor in knowledge, but very and a little bit thick-headed, we might say, but still have a great amount of power in the realms in which they operate. We cannot conceive of the complexity. And once we drop off that big, stage of trying to figure out God and just let him run the show, we can be a lot happier. And we can enjoy what we have, and we'll be happy for other people's blessings too, because we know that they're not getting more than me, and I'm not going to be jealous of another guy's portion, because I want to be happy with my portion. And I want to bless all of you to be happy with your portion, because that's all you got. That's the way you were made, and the one who made us is perfect, and he knows and he sees everything. Akol tzavui, it says in Pirkei Avot, everything is foreseen by God, but the permission to change is still in our hands. That means to change the cards that we've been dealt. If you do the work, if you do the prayer and the learning and get the merit and do the mitzvot, you can change your lot. But it's still not a contradiction to God seeing everything. Okay. So the woman's ultimate completion is through money. He says, don't begrudge your wife money. Don't think about what she spends, even. You should have clearly an understanding of what your month is like and how much she needs to do the basics and how much she needs to do the more than basics. But it's not a man's role. And I'm speaking to myself, It's a hard lesson to learn, especially when you don't have a lot around and you need to pay this and this and this and this, and your wife needs money for this, this, and this, and this. You have 8 choices and $20. What do? What you do is back down and give what you have to your wife, and she will learn to be happy with what you give her if it's really the true giving. At the level that you can handle, that you don't end up in debtor's prison. They still have that? I think it's called a credit card. Ay. Now, And if she doesn't have the completion of soul, she will not be able to give forth children. That is the sparking of her soul, is the money. Shekatuv, lamdu etev, learn well. Darshu mishpat, and demand justice. Ashru chamotz, and permit the chamotz, the extra lashon hametz, or the motz of like the extra chaff on the wheat berry. Shapasuk mazhir lasot mishpat ulazek et anigzal, because the verse is coming along to strengthen the judgment for the sake of the one who has been stolen from, the nigzal. Latzil ashuk miyad oshko, to save the one who has been scammed by the scammer. Kedei latzil nefesh banav ubenotav, in order to save the souls of a man's children. V'zeu lamdu etev, this is the idea, learn well. Shema sheta'asu mishpat v'tzilu gazul miyad hagozel, because when one case of judgment is passed, and they save what has been stolen from the thief, we're actually doing a favor to the children. In other words, when dad wins in court, the children won, because it's coming to them. God gives us money not so we can sit around on a lawn chair. God gives us money so we can take care of our responsibilities, especially children. And this is the idea of those who limud Hashem. They teach Hashem, so to speak. How? All your children are the learners of God. But here we're talking about the children that are born from the couple according to the money that's brought in to the soul of the woman. She is the resource and the source, and the one who needs to receive the money. Lamdu etev, learn well, shahatava hatiyeh labanim, that the good favor will go to the children. Shehem bechinat limudei Hashem, they're the ones who are learning Torah. But this sod kavanat the Gemara, and this is the deep secret of what the Gemara was teaching when it said, hagozel et chavero shave pruta, that a person that steals even a penny from his friend, yolichenu acharav afilu lamadai, go after him to pay him back, even all the way to Madai, which is an ancient country that's somewhere up in northern Syria near Iran. Or maybe it's closer to Iraq. And this is a truly awesome wonder. Lama tafsu madai davka. Why the rabbis chose one country of all countries to give the example of going after the one that we stole from to give back to them, to fix the branch of the tree of the woman so that she can have healthy children. However, we should know the Gemara is very deep and very hidden. And this is their true intention. He should go after him all the way to the country of Madai. Look at the letters of that word, Lamadai. To the country of Lamadai is also the letters of Limudai, those who learn my Torah. Hayinu Limudei Hashem, those people that learn the Torah, Hayinu Abanim, the children of this couple, Tzarich la'achzir lo afilu abanim shenigzal mimenu, he needs to give back the children that he lost. Now, when we throw that wrench into the equation, you understand why even people are giving up their children to adoption and some other people get them. They think because they don't want to raise the children. But maybe those children are not really theirs, or they lost them because they stole from somebody. He needs to return those children that were taken because he stole his money, he stole his children. Lamadai, to this far off country, those who learn Torah, the same words, Bi'echinat limudei Hashem. So you see, nothing happens for reasons that we think. The more we learn, the more we don't know. And we cannot calculate and we cannot even try to understand, except we do try to accept here what this man, this genius taught us about learning the Torah, learning about theft, learning about children, learning about the life force that goes through the tree from father to mother to the branches, which is the sparking of their soul, out to the fruit on the end of the branches. All of that is chai v'kayam. It's alive and it's happening all around us. And it's not stam, as we say in Hebrew. It's not, God forbid, without synchronicity, without divine providence. There has to be providence. Nothing happens without providence. Because when we learn how God runs the world, we see that nothing can be without providence because he's doing everything. And he has to do everything to be him. And that's impossible. How can we believe that 8 billion people are exactly on the track that they need to be on? Because they only have this track, the track of their spark of life, and they get to choose still. Akal tzafui, everything is foreseen of a reshut netanulach, that the permission is still given to the person to make his choices. So we can't blame God. We can only look at ourselves and say, I'm going to do better. Whatever happened is over. I'm going to do better this time, and the next time, and the next time. And God will help us. And we'll see that it's all going to come out really good. And I see that in my life, and I hope you see it in yours. And if you don't yet, you will. You stay with this path. You stay with Rebbe Nachman. And you stay with his teachings. And wherever you find those teachings, you're going to find the strength and the faith to get through the darkness of this world and get to that light. God bless you all. Have a great week. We'll see you on all the other outlets. Support us on Patreon and come by. Write us a letter, a question, a request. Rabbi Avraham Shira at gmail.com. And let me know what's on your mind. And if it's something I can help you with, a little question, a little answer, that's what I'm here for. God bless you all. Shavua Tov.